Hi friends, welcome to my channel Punvaira Citadel. I'm sorry I took a long break as I was after my spiritual and musical pursuit. So I could not make videos for the past 1 month. Now that I'm back with great vigor and enthusiasm and with God's blessings, I'll be able to publish more videos on UGC NET. In the past 7 or 8 videos that I published, we were discussing the questions that appeared in UGC NET December 2023. And there are still few more chapters left to be discussed under paper 1. And comprehension is one of the topics left out. And I think it is a cakewalk for all of us because it's a sure way to get 10 marks at one go. So 5 questions. And provided you are good in reading and understanding the passage. And here in this video, I'm going to discuss some basic and important strategies that each of us should know. There is a proverb saying that it is better to teach fishing than to give fish. And in this video, I'm going to teach you fishing marks, instead of giving you fish. Yes, you are going to read a passage, understand it, and answer the given questions, of course, with my guidance. And now let's straight get into business. As you all know, in any comprehension question, a passage of text will be given and questions will be asked from the passage to be answered. And here I'm going to teach you some basic strategies and techniques which are commonly used in understanding the passage and answering the questions. And these strategies are time tested and there are no gimmicks. And you will come to possess these skills with practice. So you need to practice a lot of passages, reading and answering the questions. Only then you will be quick enough to understand the passage and answer the questions. And here are some of the basic strategies you should be familiar with. The first one being follow active reading strategies. What is active reading? Not just passively reading it and line after line or para after para, but active reading. It involves a lot of interaction, of course, within yourself, between you and your mind. What are they summarizing while reading? In the given time, you are reading it and you should be able to summarize the entire lines in 1 or 2 lines. What it is about, that is summarizing. What is the passage about? And you should be asking questioning. And there are different types of questioning. Basically 3 main types of questioning, which I will be discussing after we finish the basic strategies. And you should keep asking questions to yourself and predicting. So as and when you read, you have to predict the next event. So this is happening. This is what going to happen. This is what is expected. So that is predicted. Keep on predicting the next line, next ending, and visualizing while reading. So you have to visualize what is given in the text. Just imagine those characters alive in front of you talking or fighting or discussing something. So visualize the area. Even if it is a description, just visualize it. That will help you in understanding better. And the next topic is textual analysis. There are different types of text and you have to know about what is the structure of the text and also what is the language of the text, whether it is simple, complex, or involving a lot of words, and the tone of the text. What is the tone of the structure, whether they are arguing for something or whether they are just giving you an idea opinion about it. So that is the tone of the text. So you have to, while reading the entire passage, you have to analyze the type of the text, and also vocabulary development, which is very, very important, which includes vocabulary acquisition. Vocabulary is knowing new words. You may come across many unfamiliar words in the passage, and you should not panic, because many of us do not have a very rich vocabulary in English, because English is not our mother tongue. But at the same time, if you encounter any unfamiliar words, it's not necessary to break your head over these words for a long time, because if the meaning does not strike you at once, the moment you read the passage, there is no point in trying to break your head and wasting your time. And the best way is to guess the meaning based on the context. Remember, guessing you should do wisely and not blindly. And you have to take clues from the passage. What is the passage talking about? What is it all about? So that is the context. So take clues from the context and guess the meaning. So I repeat, context, context, context. That is very, very important. And we will see about this, practice this, reading the clues, contextual clues from the passage in the later slides, where we will be reading a real comprehension passage and answering the question. I mean, when we are really doing fishing. Well, regarding vocabulary development, the last point, vocabulary acquisition, there is a happy news for you guys. I am planning to make shorts on vocabulary building very soon, maybe simultaneously along with my videos. And these shorts will focus on words which are not common but very often used in articles, newspapers, editorial pages, etc. And meanings of these words, as usual, I'll be giving in both in English and in Tamil. So be on the lookout. Well, the next thing you should know while you are doing comprehension is about critical thinking skills. These skills, critical thinking or analytical thinking skills, are higher order skills which require more practice and more thinking ability. And here it comprises of authors' arguments, identity bias, and the student should be able to compare and see the various perspectives of many person, including himself or herself, and compare them. So these are all the higher order skills required from the students while critically analyzing the passage. So regarding author's arguments, you should know what the author is trying to convey, whether he is arguing for the point or against it, something like that. And identify the bias. So the reader should be able to identify and locate the biases in the views of the author or somebody else who is giving their opinion in the passage. So the students who are reading the passage should be able to locate it, identify it, and think this is a bias, this is a gender bias, or this is a bias based on the social position, the social strata, or this is a caste bias. So they should be able to identify the biases and explain it if the question involves that. And compare multiple perspectives. So then the passage may contain the viewpoints of many persons. So the reader, while reading the passage, should be able to identify the differences and the reasons for it, and also he should be able to have his own view on the topic or on the point. So these are all critical thinking skills which will improve again with practice, practice and more practice. And talking about the reading comprehension strategies. And these strategies involve per se reading and comprehending strategies. What are they? Making connections. You should be able to make connections between various items in the passage. The various events you have to make connection, and the various happenings, the various points, the various ideas, the various concepts. You should be able to connect them, and you have to know how to connect between the earlier and later said statements. And you should be able to connect between one person's viewpoint with another one, and you should be able to make connections between what is said and what is not said. Sometimes you should be able to read in between lines of the passage, and that's what we say, the explicit information. What is given straightforward, it will be there, the information is there, straight away it is there. So that is explicit information, and you have to know what is implied. So sometimes the author or the writer may not give his opinion, or may not give his argument straight away, but reading his other sentences, his other sayings, that you should know what he is implying, the hidden meaning. That's why when I said you should be able to read between the lines what is not said, and you should be able to connect them, what is said and what is not said. And the next strategy is inferring. So inferring is inferring is coming to a conclusion with a given data in the passage, and it includes inferring meaning, infer ideas, and infer perspectives, and infer the differences in the opinions of various people, etc. So the next point, the next strategy in the reading comprehension is determining the main ideas. So while reading, you should be able to pick out the main theme behind the passage, and what are the main idea and what are the supporting points, or what are the supporting details. So one should be able to identify it immediately. So if you're able to do it very fast, quickly, then you will be able to answer the questions given. So all these things need practice. And the last tip is the genre awareness. Actually, the word genre, it sounds very peculiar. It is, the spelling is G-E-N-R-E, but it is pronounced as genre. It's a bit, because it sounds unusual, because it's a French word. And what does it mean, genre? It means a particular style of writing. We talk about the styles of writing, you know. So that is genre. So when you see the passage, you are supposed to identify what type of genre it belongs, what are its unique features, and because each type of genre has its own purpose. So it comes with practice. So the students, while reading, you have to recognize and understand the various genres, and make themselves more proficient readers and better able to navigate different types of text, because that will help in the long run. We discussed about the types of questions, that is under the strategies for comprehension. We listed questioning as one point. Now we will see what is questioning and what are the different types of questioning, because there are three main types of question which you should know. and the first one being the literal comprehension question. That here the questions are very literal, direct. So the answers will be there in the passage. The questions are taken from the passage directly without any difficulty. All that you need to do it is retrieve that information given in the passage and recall it. What is given there? Explicit. Explicit meaning openly. It is there in the passage. The same words will be given or some equivalent words will be there. So you need not break your head. You can straight away pick out the answer from the passage. That is the literal questions. And the second type is the inferential type. Inferential type of question. And what are they? The literal question usually tests the memory and the reading ability. That's all. Nothing more than that. It does not involve higher order skill. And next comes the inferential comprehension question. And these type of questions require the students to make inferences. What is inference? Drawing conclusion, logical conclusion based on the information given, based on the data given in the text. You have to make a decision or you have to come to a conclusion. Maybe about an event, maybe about a character, or maybe about information, or maybe about an idea. So usually these information given will be of implicit, not explicit, but implicit nature. You have to infer from these statements and other statements and making connections, making logical conclusion about it. And actually these inferential type of questions encourage students to read in between the lines and make connections beyond the text. Beyond the text, what is given there, even beyond that you have to think. And the last type, of course, the most difficult one is the critical comprehension question, which involve very high order or skills, higher skills, like evaluating, analyzing and criticizing. So the student has to read the passage given, understand the meaning, understand the explicit meaning, understand the implicit meaning, make connections, ask questions, identify the biases and compare the perspectives, and then coming to your logical conclusion and evaluate it, analyze it and criticize it. So this is the last type or the most difficult type of question is the critical comprehension questions, and usually any passage given will include all the three types. So some will be the direct literal question which is easy for you to answer, and the next comes the inferential, and the third one which you have to understand, think and critically evaluate and give your answer. All right, we are going to see examples from the passage for each type of questions. Well, we talked about genre under the strategies of the comprehension passage, and now we should know certain types, different types of genre available. Because if you could understand what are the different types of genre, you will be able to answer accordingly or understand the passage accordingly. So the basic types of, I mean, just go through this and it might help you while reading the passage. That's all. I don't think these are all the passages for comprehension. You will have to answer questions from there. No, I'm just giving you an introduction and what are all the skills you should need to tackle these questions on comprehension. Now the different types of genres or narrative. The first one is narrative. So these are passages typically tell stories. So what happened, what then, so they include characters, setting, plot, dialogues, etc. And it can be fictitious or non-fictitious. And it may include adventure or it may include mystery, fantasy or sometimes even biography. And the second type is informational genre, or sometimes even it is called expository. They provide factual information on a topic, They include definition, explanation, example, descriptions, comparison, etc. Examples for this informational passages are articles, reports in the newspaper, essays, textbooks. Even textbooks are informational, expository. They give detailed information about various topics. And the third type of genre is persuasive or argumentative. It will give a lot of argument. The author will give arguments, convincing the reader of a particular viewpoint that this is good. The environment you have to save, the onus is on the people, something like that. It's very persuasive and argumentative. They often provide evidences, reasoning to support their position and appeal to the they often appeal to the emotion or the logic. Example for descriptive genre or ads and editorial pages. And they are example for persuasive or argumentative genre, these ads and editorials. And descriptive genre usually gives descriptions. They give vividly, they describe a person or they describe a place or sometimes an event using a lot of sensory details and imagery also they may provide. So they are descriptive genre. And the next one, procedural genre, usually provides step-by-step instructions or guidelines for completing a task. Example, a cooking demo. So sometimes you may be given a passage on your cooking demo. So you'll be asked questions like that. So that is called procedural genre. And they usually include words like first, second, lastly, then, etc. So when they give you cooking demo, what they say, first you light the stove on, then you take a pan, then you cut the the sequence will be there. So that is procedural. And the next type of genre is poetry. You know what is a poem is? They will have structured language, rhythms, and very often contain figurative languages such as metaphor, simile, etc. They may convey a certain theme, they may convey sometimes certain type of emotion or ideas. And the last type of genre is drama or a play. And this is usually for stage performances, and they include many characters, dialogues, and stage direction. So these are all the various types of genres available, and you may get a passage from any one of this genre, and accordingly you have to develop your skills. So if you know, if we are not sure what type of genre they are going to give as a passage in your exam, so you should be prepared for all answering all type of passages. Understand? These are the general usual types of genre, the style. So whatever be the type of genre, the type of passages given to you, you have to be familiar with all type of genre, and you should have a lot of practice, and for which I would suggest you to read the newspapers for the editorial column, especially those articles in the newspaper. Not just news alone, there are articles in the paper and which will be of great help in not only in building up your vocabulary, but also in the to increase your speed of reading and developing these skills, the higher order skills in comprehending them and answering the questions. And you can discuss them in group, debate them, and listen to constructive criticism after doing these passages of comprehension. And a differentiated instruction also will be of help in practicing for comprehension question. What is differentiated instruction? It is by adapting to various approaches, the different approaches, adapting to different materials, like you may read an article or you may read a journal or some storyboards or newspaper, etc., and tailored to the individual learner, whichever form of approach material you like, you use that for reading and answering the question. You can either do it either by reading or by listening to others reading it and asking questions, answering it. So it is purely by practice you will develop the skills of answering the questions. And now here I have given a passage for you to go through it carefully, read it. I'm not going to read it for you because that will take a lot of time. And the questions are given, the questions follow. I will be, of course, discussing the question and answer. At that time, I will again refer to the passage and give you the meaning. Now, for you to read the passage silently, carefully. Now, look at the very first question, which says the return to and the discovery of tradition in the post-independence era was inspired by what? Search for values, search for roots, and search for realism, search for identity. This is a very direct question, otherwise known as literal. Literally, it is given in the passage. You just read it and pick the answer. You don't have to make connections, or you don't have to know the even infer anything from it, or you don't have to evaluate, or you don't have to judge. Just by reading the passage and you can answer this question. That is why we call it direct or literal question. What is given there? The return to and the discovery to tradition is inspired by what? Inspired by search for roots and search for identity. See, in the passage, search for identity is given as quest. The meaning of the word quest is again something like the urge. Quest here means the urge for knowledge. So the urge to know about one's identity, which is again the same meaning as search for identity. So the answer is B and D only, the fourth one. Anyway, we will look into the passage now for you to see the exact words. Why do I say it is a... The question, the first question was the return. See, you find them in the third sentence. The return to and the discovery of the tradition was inspired by search for root and a quest for identity. So it is a direct question. So quest means, here the quest means, word quest means again search or the urge to know. So this type of question is called a literal or direct question. So just read the passage and get the answer. It's very as simple as that. Moving on to the second question. Decolonization is a process of... Four options are given. So you should know the meaning of decolonization. What is decolonization? Colonization is occupying, one country occupying another country is colonization. And decolonization is the country being occupied becoming independent. So that is decolonization. The country which is colonizing goes away. So the one which is occupied becomes independent. So the answer is becoming independent. So this is also a type of direct, but you have to infer the meaning here. So it is inferential question. Infer the meaning of decolonization. What is the meaning of decolonization? Becoming independent from colonization. So this is a type of inferential question for which you need to know the meaning of the words. So vocabulary is very important. And let us see in the passage where this word. The second question was, what does the word decolonization refer to? So here is decolonization. So what is the meaning of decolonization? It is becoming independent. Independent. And here what they refer is not only the country becoming independent from the occupying country, but a decolonization of our lifestyle, returning to our original. Let me go through the passage quickly so that you could answer all the questions. So, as part of the great cultural renaissance, what is the meaning of renaissance? Renaissance meaning rebirth. Renaissance meaning rebirth. So, after when is it generated? This during the post-independent, after independent period, after our country became independent. So there was a rebirth of what? There occurred a most meaningful encounter with tradition. What is meaningful encounter with tradition? Encounter meaning something like a meeting or experience. Meeting with our tradition, all that is tradition to our Indian nation, where in various fields of creative activity. So after independent, the people became, they wanted to, they wanted to go to the traditional methods of creative activity, whatever be it is, maybe it is music or culture or drama, whatever it is. And the return to and the discovery of the tradition was inspired by a search for root and quest for identity. Why did they want to go back to the tradition after independence? Because they had an urge to find out their roots. What is their root? Who am I? And where do I belong to? That is the quest for identity. I want to know myself. Who am I? What is my roots? What is my culture? What is my tradition? Where I am coming from? So all these questions arose after independence, and they wanted to go back to tradition. That is what is meant here. And this was a part of the whole process of decolonization of our lifestyle, decolonization of our values, of our social institution, creative forms, and cultural modes. So renaissance, that is rebirth, occurred in all the fields. We wanted to go away from the Western influence. So the modern Indian theatre also, which is become a colonial theatrical culture. So before independence, it was influenced by the British theatre culture. And after independence, they felt the search for roots and most intensely to match its violent dislocation from the traditional course. Why? Because during before independence, there was a tragic dislocation, moving away, disturbance from the traditional one. We moved away from our own tradition. So in that period, the directors, great directors, drama directors, theatre directors like Karanth and Panikar and Ratan. You need not bother about these names. I myself do not know. Only art people, literature people. They might be familiar with the names of these people, but you should know the main context here. The context is they are talking about the theatre, modern theatres, which came into existence before, during the period of colonization. So after they all left, the British left, the big directors like these people, they had the most meaningful encounter with tradition. They experienced our Indian tradition, and with their work, they have reversed the colonial course of contemporary theatre. So they wanted to come back to our own traditional Indian theatre and put it back on the track of great Natya Sastra tradition. Natya Sastra, you should know, it is a very much Indian culture, Indian word, Natya Sastra tradition. They wanted to come back to the traditional method of drama or dance. Who? These great directors. And it sounds paradoxical. So what is paradoxical? Paradoxical means two things which are opposite. That is called paradoxical. Something like this is the beginning of the end. When I say this is the beginning of the end, what does it mean? Beginning is beginning, and this is the beginning of the end, opposite. So these are paradoxical. So these directors, they wanted to come back to the Indian tradition, but at the same time, their theatre is both avant-garde. What is avant-garde? It's a theatre word pertinent to theatre. This thing avant-garde is a new artwork, new experimental artwork, very modern artwork, and usually it is not accepted by the contemporary people. Anything new, anything very innovative, the people will not accept, so ultra modern. So that is avant-garde in theatres. In the conventional realistic theatre, and still belongs to the Natya Sastra traditional Indian culture. So they try to mix up both the traditional, our typical Indian traditional Natya Sastra theatre with the modern, ultra modern, avant-garde type of theatre. So that is paradoxical here. So this is what the meaning here is. So you should know what the context is about. So the second question is asking about what is the meaning of decolonization. So we know that it is decolonization is getting freedom. Okay, it may be of the country getting freedom, of our lifestyle becoming independent. All right. So what the passage. Now look at the third question. The Natya Sastra tradition refers to. We know Natya Sastra. It is a typical Indian tradition word. So it refers to Indian theatrical tradition, because we are talking about here the theater art. So it is not colonial tradition. Colonial tradition meaning it belongs to the British people who colonized the country, who colonized our country, the British people. And what is avant-garde theater? I told you the meaning of avant-garde is something new, experimental, new innovation. So the Sastra tradition means always refers to our old culture and our old tradition. So it is not avant-garde. And conventional realistic theatre refers to the ultra-modern, the new modern influenced by the Western theatre. So this is also not the correct answer. So the word Natya Sastra tradition refers to Indian theatrical tradition. So you got it? The fourth question is the post-independence cultural renaissance in Indian theatre focused on what? So I told you the meaning of renaissance is, remember, rebirth. Rebirth of what here? Rebirth of our Indian traditional values, Indian traditional system, our culture, our music, our drama, our theatre. So this is Renaissance. So what did it focus upon? Did it focus on the development of Western theatre? No, not at all. Renaissance is something rebirth. So rebirth of our own country's tradition. So it does not refer to the traditional Western theatre, no. And it refers to the search for traditional Indian theatre, yes. Third one is the correct answer. And the fourth one is also wrong. Modern Western, no. We did not want to go back to the modern Western theatre which influenced our country before independence. Okay, so the third one is the correct answer. So we saw the entire passage. Now I hope you understand it better. And this is a kind of inferential question. Why you are supposed to infer the meaning of the word in Renaissance? What does it mean? It means rebirth. Rebirth of what? That something that existed before independence. What existed before independence? All this Western influence, and before colonization, our own Indian culture. So the rebirth giving birth through our traditional culture and our traditional methods, our traditional dressings and theaters, and all this refers to Renaissance. And what did it focus on? It focused on return to traditional Indian theatre, or search for traditional Indian theatre. Look at the last question. The most significant contribution of directors like Karendra Panikkar and Ratan Dhyan was. We are not going to bother about these names. I told you I am not familiar with these theatre people, and because these are people associated with theatre. Only art, literature people will know. So while you're reading it, you may get a shock. Oh, what is this? I don't know Karanta. I don't know who Panikkar. You need not know. You have to guess from the context. You know the passage is about all about the Renaissance that happened after independence, and these directors helped in bringing back the traditional method and merging it with the old modernity. So you should know the context, and from the context you should be able to guess the meaning. While I say guessing, it's not wild or random guessing. It involves intelligent guessing, and you have to connect it to the context. So we are talking about this drama theater, and we are talking about the Renaissance period after independence, and who are all these people. They helped in bringing about the modernity in theater and at the same time retaining the original traditional drama. So this is what it matters. So you have to and you should be familiar with these words, and so read the question. The most significant contribution of directors was making Indian theatre totally traditional. No, it's not totally traditional. And making Indian theatre backward, definitely not. This cannot be the correct answer. And dislocating Indian theatre from the traditional Indian method theatre. No, this is also, they did not want to dislocate it. So it cannot be the correct answer because their contribution was very significant. So it should be good. Bringing about an amalgamation. What is the meaning of amalgamation? Amalgamation, I told you, it is the mixing. Amalgamation is mixing. What did they mix? Oh, again, I am going back to the mixing. They try to mix the modernity, modern theatre, avant-garde, with the traditional Indian tradition of the Natya Shastra. So they wanted to bring about the amalgamation of the Indian tradition with the Western realistic theatre. So they did a sort of fusion. Amalgamation is something like mixing or fusion. So the fourth one is the correct answer. For the last question, what was the significant contribution of these three directors? So you get the answer here. So they had a most meaningful encounter with tradition. So they meeting, that is, encounter means meeting or experience the tradition, Indian tradition with their work, and they have reversed the colonial mindset, the colonial course of contemporary theatre. What is colonial course of contemporary theatre? The modern Western influence, and put it back on the track of the great Natya Shastra tradition. Definitely Natya Shastra tradition is very much Indian culture. So what sounds paradoxical? You should know the meaning of paradoxical. Paradoxical means something two different opposite things. So what are the two things that are opposite here? That is the avant-garde. That is the modernity in their theatrical approach, and but still belonging to the Natya Shastra, traditional Indian theatre. So that is what amalgamation. So that's the fourth option. The amalgamation, amalgamation, M-A-T-I-O-N. The amalgamation of the avant-garde modern Western theatre with the traditional Indian Natya Shastra theatre. This is what they did, their contribution. Okay. Okay, thank you friends. We have come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll come back again with more passages on comprehension. And also I'm planning to make separate videos, or rather shorts, focusing only on vocabulary. Over a period of years, I have documented many popular and less familiar words with meanings, and I'll make shorts using them, and please make use of them, and always make it a practice to learn a few words at least every day with meanings to enrich your vocabulary. Until then, bye bye.